hard to have just one reason why I really love this ancient craft. There are just so many reasons to love it because it's so old, and it's almost like I'm continuing a legacy of different metalsmiths and female smiths of the past, and maybe someday I'll pass this down to somebody else, so it's almost like your own little legacy that you're contributing to.
First impressions of Old Newbury, I saw men sitting at anvil blocks and using big heavy hammers and pounding away at silver bars with patterns of spoons and forks all over the wall. It captivated me, quite frankly, although I realized that I was being hired to be one of these men.
Silver making started actually in this area in the 1600s, and the fact that it really has changed very little in centuries. The tools are essentially the same.
Of course, we certainly know of Paul Revere. One of the things I'm amused about is that if Mr. Revere could come back in this day and age, I and my colleagues would be some of the few people he could probably really identify with. And maybe, hopefully, he'd be pretty proud that the craft has lasted this long. So, I retire, and within a couple of months, lo and behold, the company did hire a young woman. She's about 22 years old, and she is a marvelous, marvelous craftsperson. Not only that, she was tenacious in terms of wanting to work here.
Right after I graduated, I came in for the first time and said, "Hi, I'm graduating from Maine College of Art, and it would just be a dream for me to work here. Will you hire me?"
I said, "I'm not really sure, but we can see what we can do." And she handed me this CD, and I looked at it, and I'm going, wow, this girl is talented. So I took her resume and her CD, and I sent it to our corporate.
I got a call, and he said, "We're really intrigued that such a young woman would be interested in this, and we'd be really interested to meet you and talk and then see about hiring you." So that was in May. Even though they'd expressed a desire to meet me and interview me, nothing really came of that, so I would call every week. I was just so determined to work here. I really wanted to do this.
She was persistent, and they hired her. She came here already with a built-in love for this craft, whereas most of us, our affection for it grew over a period of time.
Well, I think there's such a rebirth of craft with people in my generation who are really interested in traditional ways of making things. The reason why I like this process is because it is so physical that you're using almost your whole body, almost like you're pouring all of your life energy into this one piece. It's sort of an intimate process too, just knowing the material, knowing how you're going to hit it, how it's going to react to your hammer blows.
Well, I do agree there's something special about the hammering and shaping of the silver, the forging of it, in taking a bar and producing an intricate serving piece by the fact of you're really reshaping the silver, moving the silver with the hammer and the anvil. It's just a very special field of accomplishment. Some people have expressed the thought that, just sitting at the anvil all the time and just making flatware is so tedious, but I compare that to shuffling papers on a desk or something, and I'd say the flatware, making flatware is not tedious. With all the 28 different patterns, we're constantly making something different.
When I first came to Old Newbury Crafters, silver was $5 an ounce. Today, silver is $38 an ounce.
Sterling is 92.5% fine silver and 7.5% copper. If you did pure silver for this, it would be much too soft and not really practical for making an eating utensil. The copper does give it rigidity, and as you hammer the piece, it gets harder to the point where you have to stop and re-soften the metal. The other thing about forging sterling is that when we are finished with the piece, it is quite hard. So it's going to be able to maintain its shape over years and years of usage. We say to people when they lament about having to polish silver, don't polish it, use it every day. This stuff is built to last. It's good and strong because of that forging process.
Hi. I have a rush order for Judy Riley. Can you do 2 tablespoons by Thanksgiving?
Yes.
See if we have the silver to do it.
Okay.
Thanks. You can buy a stainless steel set, and you can have that stamped out anywhere. You cannot have a handmade piece of silver made just anywhere. And as far as I know, we are the only ones in the country that are producing it. It's very exciting to have a grandmother pass down her silver to her daughter. She passes it on to her daughter, and then her daughter passes it on to her daughter. It's amazing. The generations of silver, and then if they lose a piece of their silver, they're heartbroken. And they come back to me and they said, "We've lost this piece. Are you still making it?" And we are. And we can replace it.
Many of our customers have told me that when they have dinner guests, oftentimes the silver becomes the main conversation at the dinner table. I think I now understand why. It's individuals making individual pieces.
Customers do ask for specific makers. They have a favorite that they love, and that's who they want to make it.
There are little trademarks of my work that are in the pieces that I make. Perhaps a little bit subtle difference in appearance of the bend. It's not a great difference because we are still manufacturers of silverware, and so they all have to look very much alike, but there are subtle differences. As in colonial time, they made silver very smooth. They didn't like leaving hammer marks in it. It was sort of a sign of bad workmanship. And the old Newbury silver was made in that same tradition until the early 60s, when the stores that we were selling to said that a lot of the customers didn't believe it was handmade because there weren't hammer marks in it. And so we started leaving some more of the subtle texture of the forging in the silver.
The first stamp that we use says hand wrought, so you know that it's handmade and not just machine produced. The second stamp says ONC Sterling, ONC standing for Old Newbury Crafters, sterling silver. And the last piece that we stamp is our maker's mark.
Every silversmith has their own maker's mark of their choosing. They choose whatever they would like to have stamped on the back of the sterling silver flatware piece that they make.
This unicorn stamp happened to be here, so I just adopted it as my own because I was making silver and I needed a stamp to put on it, and so I've had it for 41 years, so I'll take it with me, yes.
My maker's mark is called a triskelion, or sometimes a triple spiral, and it's actually an old Celtic symbol. I've always really liked it just for its beauty and simplicity, and also philosophically it's really intrigued me because it is so old, and throughout the years it meant different things to different people. For example, there are a lot of Celtic pagan goddesses that were often depicted as the triple goddess, where they had three aspects of themselves, usually as like a young innocent, and then a maternal figure, and then finally an old wise woman. And then actually, when the Christians were converting a lot of the Celts to their religion, they kept a lot of those ancient pagan symbols but gave them a Christian spin. So then it became a symbol for the Holy Trinity.
That looks good.
Jeff is a really great teacher because he is critical when he needs to be, but he always does it in a way that's very friendly and kind. I never feel like he's telling me, you're not good enough to work here, you know. There were a few challenges when I came in. For example, the hammers that we use are 5 pounds, and although I'd done a lot of raising and forging before, I'd always used much smaller hammers. So that was a little bit difficult to adjust to because I wasn't used to the kind of weight. Yeah, it's usually like my right bicep and my left forearm are like very strong, and then the opposite, not so much. It's kind of awkward. For me, I thought, yeah, it is special to be a female silversmith and metalsmith. It's always sort of been a male-dominated environment. As far as this company is concerned, I'm the first woman to come in and actually forge. Part of the reason why they were intrigued about hiring me is because I'm young and I'm a woman, and they haven't had anybody like me here. If I'm talking about working here at Old Newbury Crafters, it's really important that something has to function. But in my own personal studio work, I'm focusing more on aesthetics. It's about expressing an idea and sort of getting that idea out there in a form that maybe people aren't used to, and make something that is utilitarian but approach it in a way that from a day-to-day basis it wouldn't be interacted with. Because I was really interested in different gender roles. What it means to sort of own your body and owning your sexuality. Vessels are really perfect for that because it's a really old metaphor for the body, the vessel, because they contain things just like we do. If you're a woman, sometimes, you know, you might have a child, and during that time it's like you're this sacred vessel containing, you know, a new life inside of you. I just wanted to make them objects of empowerment and saying like, yes, I own myself, this is who I am, and I'm not ashamed of that. It'll look good. Straight down the middle still. And it sits on the table nicely, and that's that. Just sort of amazed me that you can take this technology that's been around for so long and make functional work like we do, or conceptual art, and there's just so many applications to this process, so it's really exciting. It's almost like the sky's the limit.